Del Rio, Texas. Rob Wade and Robert Garza. Two guys who dive. This episode of Two Guys Who Dive, recorded Saturday, 21 April 2012, Episode 12, Christ of the Abyss. And welcome to another episode of Two Guys Who Dive. I am Rob Wade.
I am Robert Garza.
And we welcome you to episode 12, which is a very small but exciting milestone for us that we even made it past 10. Although technically, what's available to you on the web is probably only 11 episodes because we did have an issue with one of the episodes not getting recorded. And we also discovered a challenge when we tried to upload to Vimeo.com or Vimeo or Vimeo, however you pronounce that silly thing. They have a very restrictive video policy, so you cannot upload more than one HD quality podcast per week, and I mean down to the minute.
Really?
So if we're, sometimes, as those of you who follow the show know, sometimes we don't actually do the show live on Saturday night because we have other things that sometimes come up. Either I'm out of town or he's out of town or just something that conflicts with our ability to do the podcast on our regular schedule. So what we end up doing, of course, is agreeing on an alternate day and time to record the show. So as a result, that means that, let's say, we get the show done on a normal Saturday night, but then for the following week, we do the show on a Thursday or Friday. Well, then, of course, I try to upload the podcast shortly after we finish the show. So for those of you who couldn't watch the whole thing or want to catch it later, or if you're downloading it to your video podcast device of choice, you can watch it. Well, unfortunately, if you try to do that, it says, I'm sorry, you're only allowed to upload one HD quality podcast per week, and it's too big, and blah, blah, blah. So then I wait until Friday, and then I wait until Saturday. I mean, I tried like Saturday until within 5 minutes of the time that I had uploaded the last podcast, and it's still saying, I'm sorry, you're only allowed to upload one HD quality podcast per week. And so I had to wait till after the time that it completed uploading the last time, which is just ridiculous. So for you folks at Vimeo, you've got a horrible process, a horrible system. YouTube is just eating your lunch when it comes to that. I don't know who would use your process for their sole way of sharing podcasting, but I'm just glad it's not us. I mean, we'll use it as it's convenient just because there are some people that like that system, but
wow.
But it is what it is, technology. Some companies have got it right and some don't. Facebook found the right mix of things, and that's why they own the world when it comes to social. They quickly surpassed MySpace, and which I still have an account out there, but I never use it. I mean, I could probably count the number of times I visited this year on one finger.
How many users do they still have?
Well, it's interesting. They grew. They were huge. I couldn't even give you a number, but then it started dropping dramatically over the last couple of years as Facebook just surged. But interestingly, the last couple of months, they saw a resurgence. I'm not sure why. Although I think it's probably mostly folks who their world is getting into like bands, music, stuff like that. So to be quite honest, MySpace has very low standards when it comes to putting stuff out there. It's just horrible.
You can put everything pretty much.
Just about.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not much to leave to the imagination if you want to get really randy. So I've got an account there, but it's a dormant account. What about you? Do you have a MySpace account? Or?
You know, I do not have one, and I never created one.
Can't blame you.
When it actually started off, I remember my daughter having an account, and she pretty much lived on it. And you know,
yeah,
she's very gothic. You know,
is she all the way to emo or not quite to emo?
Well, no, she's not emotional. She's more gothic.
Yeah.
The thing is,
usually you see a pathway. You know, they start with the goth thing, and then it gets quickly to the I'm sad. You know.
No, she's very not sad. She's very angry and very you know,
angry
vocal.
Baby. Angry baby.
Yeah, no, she's you know, she is a modern girl. What can I say? But you know, when she started off with that, she had her page fixed up really nice and everything, and now she's into the Facebook and is very vocal on that as well. And I've talked to her about that, you know, kind of tone it down a little bit.
Right.
You know, people know me and they know that you're my daughter, you know.
Kaboom!
But, you know, it's like she says, you know, it's her First Amendment right, freedom of speech, and she utilizes that to the max.
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm all about free speech, but the thing about free speech is, and if you read the Federalist Papers, if you read a lot of the writings of our founding fathers, they came from a number of walks of life, and one of the things that they really tried to make a point of in their writing is that freedom, government, you know, governing yourself it works if you are responsible. If you know, they thought that most people should be, you know, pretty God-fearing and understand you have a level of responsibility that goes above and beyond yourself. And so just because you have the freedom, which they believed was God-given, to express yourself, to pursue happiness, etc., there was a responsibility that you assumed as a mature person to treat other people with a certain level of respect.
Exactly.
To treat yourself with a certain level of respect. And just realize, you know, that just because you can say or do something anywhere you want doesn't mean it's beneficial. And there's actually a scripture, not to get all religious, but there's a scripture that says, you know, for believers, all things are permissible, but not everything's beneficial. And that really is a good way to live your life. As I understand that, especially in this country, God bless the USA, that we have these kinds of freedoms that are unique in this world.
Right.
And that to be able to do the things that we do with those kinds of freedoms comes a level of responsibility that basically does say, you can say and do whatever you want, but it's not necessarily a beneficial thing to go and act on those things. You know, I can go out and get drunk all the time, and well, what does that get you? Liver failure and tons of medical bills and people hating you and you hating people and you hurting people. You know, so just because you can do something wild and crazy doesn't mean it's a smart thing to do.
Kind of like a quote from a Star Trek movie. You just because we can do a thing doesn't mean we must do a thing.
Yes. I love Star Trek. Love Star Trek.
Sorry, I had to throw that out there, guys.
Absolutely, because we're serious Star Trek fans. So
yeah.
Have you? Speaking of that, this is like totally out of left field. Have you read up on anything on what this next Star Trek movie is?
No, I haven't even followed it at all.
Really?
Yeah, and most of the time I like to read a lot of the stuff on the internet.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if it's on the internet, it is gospel, guys.
That's right. That's right. Flickster, IMDb, yeah, they're all good.
But no, I actually have not read anything on the new upcoming movie. Have you?
No, not at all. You know, when I first saw that, okay, there is going to be a sequel to the reboot, if you will, or the alternate timeline, which is really what it is. You know, they said, okay, well, we've pretty much signed everybody back. Everybody's gonna do the show or do the movie, but there was nothing on where they were gonna go with it.
You know, with the remake of the new Star Trek franchise, I was actually I had mixed emotions.
Me too, absolutely.
Because it was based on before Kirk got old, and this is when he was young,
and a girdle and a hairpiece,
yeah, and everything else. William Shatner, I love you, buddy. But the thing is, what really blew me was the the fact that the bridge on the Enterprise for the remake was so high tech. It even makes the I mean, come on, the original series.
I totally agree. I was looking at that. I had to accept a certain degree of the liberties they took with the design. The newer version in the reboot, the alternate timeline, was actually larger than the original series one by quite a bit of size. It actually was closer. If I read the specs right, it was actually closer in size to the refit version that showed up in the first Star Trek movie back in 1979. And but you're right. It looked too modern compared to the Next Generation and Deep Space Nine.
I did like the fact that when they were actually shooting their torpedoes or missiles, they actually looked like missiles flying in space, not like a little beam of light.
Right.
They kept it kind of
that photon sound that was typical of, which was just whether it was a beam. Okay, you knew that was the phasers. If it was a little blob of light, then it was the photon torpedoes.
Yeah, there you go.
Of course, I did notice that, and if I'm trying to remember the scene, if it was the opening scene with the Kelvin, or if it was with the Enterprise, where it looked like they were loading charges or something. It almost looked like a revolver. They were putting stuff in, and I don't know if that was supposed to be loading charges for the phasers or for the photon torpedoes or what. But I was like, wait a minute. Those can't be actual torpedoes because they're way too small. I mean, they looked like regular shells almost.
Well, if you look, there's a scene when I think it's the first ship, the Kelvin, I think is when it's blowing up.
Yeah.
There's actually phasers on the actual the outer part of the ship, the actual saucer part of it, and they look like those lights from a stage show, like the laser lights, because they were rotating.
That kept it true to the last series, Enterprise, because those were the phasers that was basically a variation of the phasers that they had on the Enterprise, the NX-01. So I could appreciate that was still holding at least some connectivity to one of the series. So all in all, I enjoyed the movie. It was exciting.
It was good.
I'm sorry, but there is no way in the world that I'm buying Spock and Uhura. I'm sorry. That's just not acceptable. I don't care what timeline or what universe. No.
Sorry, Abrams. That was a party foul on you.
That was big time. That was a huge fail, mega fail on your part. I don't care what you thought you were trying to get away with. And sorry for you fans out there who had no clue about the original series or Next Generation or all that. Y'all just need to just get over the fact that that's just wrong. I'm sorry.
Kirk got there first.
Yeah, that's right. He did. yeah, that's true. That was true. That was Plato's stepchild, if I remember the episode correctly. Had the little, were we talking about last week? All the different, the Wild Wild West and some of the characters that showed up on that.
Yeah, the Yul Brynner and all of them.
Were we talking about on the podcast? We talked so many times. Or was it at the... I can't remember.
I have to look at the stage notes for that. I can't remember.
We've gone into so many conversations, but back in the 60s, you had like the Batman series.
That's right.
And then you had like Wild Wild West, and a lot of the.
No, we didn't have that discussion.
We didn't have that discussion.
No, not on the podcast. Maybe you had it like with some other.
Okay.
Buddy.
Well, if you look at like the Batman series, which was campy as all get out. And it had they always had the little, their special guest villains were pretty famous actors, seen a lot in that period. But they seemed to like share a lot of those actors and sometimes quasi characters between Batman, Wild Wild West, and even to some extent you would see a little bit of it in Star Trek, the original series. It was pretty amazing. You would. There was a midget or a little person, I don't know what they call it. They probably had a number of different names back in.
A midget.
Yeah, he showed up on Batman. He showed up on Wild Wild West, and he showed up on that episode, Plato's stepchild, the episode of Star Trek. But the difference was he was actually a good guy on the the Star Trek episode. But it was kind of interesting to see some of these characters showing and these actors showing up in different series at that point. For the Batman series, you saw a lot of cameos when they were climbing up the wall, which really wasn't up the wall. It was a wall laid down.
It was laid down, actually. Yeah. They turned the camera sideways.
Yeah, and then they had like their capes held out. Well, no, half the time they didn't even have that.
They didn't have that. It was like, actually wrapped around them.
I was like, okay, that's just wrong. But you would see somebody open a window. It would be some cameo from somebody. And as a matter of fact, I think I was watching a This Week in Tech podcast, and they were talking about some foul, a foul on one of the cameos. They had Colonel Klink. And I had totally forgotten that episode. They're climbing up the wall, and suddenly window opens, and there's Werner Kempler, or how you pronounce his last name. As Colonel Klink. We're actually talking. I'm like, wait a minute. That was from World War II. Why is he showing up in the 60s? I'm like, that's just wrong. Maybe he's looking for Colonel Hogan. I'm trying to find Colonel Hogan.
Yeah, Bob Crane got beat down by a...
Well, he was all into the Vegas crime stuff syndicate. I mean, he was like, got in trouble with the wrong people.
Yeah, they killed him with a crowbar.
Yeah. Ooh, that's got to hurt.
Yeah.
Or how would Duke Nukem say it? Ooh, that's gotta hurt.
Yeah.
I used to play Duke Nukem back in the day.
Really?
But the latest version, which took like a decade to get out, those who actually bought it and played it say it was horrible. One of the most horrifying sequels to a video game. just horrible. You know, like just violated every rule you could think of.
So, speaking about local things, or just anything in general, I heard you went on a dive today. How was that?
Oh, yeah, it was good. Went out to Lake Amistad, Scuba Cove, of course, with a friend of ours, Justin O'Brien, who works. He's part of the security forces, one of our defenders out here at Laughlin Air Force Base. He just got back from a deployment.
Is he Irish?
He's not. Yeah. O'Brien.
O'Brien.
Oh, that's right. There was an O'Brien in Star Trek, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. He started on Next Generation, then he moved over. He only got a semi-recording role, and then he got a more permanent role in DS9.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he was deployed over at Saudi Arabia.
That's cool.
And he said they had some different things there. Some stuff he couldn't talk about, or he'd have to kill me. No, I'm not kidding. I'm just kidding. But yeah, he was over there and just got back. Well, he spent some time. They give you quite a bit of leave to kind of recuperate from the stuff that you see and do over in deployment. So he was anxious to get back in the water. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So he was helping watch. He was one of the pace cars, if you will, or block traffic cars for the annual adventure race that Laughlin Air Force Base sponsors out here. And you probably hear our dogs going nuts in the background. They probably see somebody walking their dog down our street. Yeah. But every year they have this adventure race, which seems to get bigger and bigger. They had 60 teams participating, and it's like a Ironman. Yeah, they do the biking and the running and the kayaking, which I think they called it rafting. I'm like, wait a minute. We don't have a river here that you can raft. I was like, I don't think it qualifies as rafting unless there's movement of water.
So where did they actually do that? Do you know?
Well, they started on base, then they worked their way through out to the lake, of course. So it's a pretty extensive deal, and they actually had teams come in from other Air Force bases.
I had a couple of friends who actually were doing that.
Really?
They participated in that event. I wasn't asked, to do it or anything like that, but I did see the flyer, and I kind of thought, since I started kind of writing a little bit, I figured, let me go for it. But I actually visited the local bike shop, dive shop.
Yeah.
Bike shop, and they were flooded with bikes where everybody's getting their bike tuned up for this event. I saw a bunch of high-end bikes and
there's some serious bicyclists around here.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 bikes, just for this event, and awesome equipment that they were using for this. I was thinking, not this year, but maybe next year. Maybe I'll
get yourself wound up to do it.
I'll get myself geared up for that. But I will definitely look into it next year to see. If, I don't know about starting a team, but maybe joining one. I'd like to do that. My wife is texting me, whatever. She's watching us.
Well, Sandy, make sure you jump into the chat room. We'd love to just have your comments or questions, but do not put your husband on the spot. That would not be fair. Would not be right. Wouldn't be cool. And no giving him your shopping list. Milk, egg, cheese. Don't give him the shopping list over the chat room. That's not good either.
No. No, and you know what? When she does give me a shopping list to go take care of or whatever, I stick exactly to the list. I don't go overboard. She says LOL. But like I said, we were eating at Rudy's, and we actually saw a flyer on the countertop, and it's like, this is a thing one of our friends was talking about, and I was looking at it. Didn't seem bad. I would have liked to have done the bicycling part of it because I kind of started riding, but I would like to really get into better shape, obviously, to be able to keep up with these people. Like I said, I saw some amazing bikes at the bike shop that they were getting fixed.
And you see those people all year round riding out here. I mean, they're just insane amounts of riding they do, for their own exercise and recreational enjoyment, but also they're getting ready for these events like this. And when I saw all the teams that came down from other bases, Shepherd Air Force Base, which Wichita Falls, Texas, I think they said a team from Altus Air Force Base, which is in Oklahoma. I mean, they're coming from all over the place.
I didn't see it on the flyer. Was there prize money involved in this? I mean, you got
get me to Lion. I don't know. I mean, it's gaining notoriety because we do have quite a bit of open area to be able to do something like this. Unlike places like San Antonio or whatever that would be more challenged to execute something like this really well. Mm-hmm. And then we get a lot of really good community support for activities like this. Really, say what you will about little sleepy old Del Rio, but we have a number of the motorcycle runs that come through here. The St. Patty's Day run that they do, the Valentine's Day run. I mean, there's a lot of support for stuff like that. They have a lot of fairgrounds, stuff like that open up and just open their arms for these groups to come in and just have a good time and
one thing
spend money.
Yeah, one thing I wish they would actually bring back is the air shows.
Well, I can give you a little bit of background on that since I do work at Laughlin Air Force Base. We were close to having an air show this past year. Year. However, to do a decent air show, it has to be a 2-day event, and it costs so much money to put it on. The advertising, the working with local area law enforcement, Border Patrol, Homeland Security, Sheriff's Department, as well as our own security forces.
Right.
The amount of work that it takes to put that massive an event on, because you're talking about bringing in aircraft from all over the United States and potentially all over the world if you're bringing in some foreign Air Force aircraft. And we do a number of exercises with civilians, everybody, to in case there's an accident. So you get a lot of the folks. Of course, it's a requirement for the active duty military to have first aid and buddy care, and for people like you and I who are emergency first aid or emergency first response instructors, and of course, obviously able to do that kind of stuff. We're able to provide augmentation for that kind of thing, but basically being prepared for what we've seen on YouTube and just about, so many different programs out there talking about where you see an accident happen, where the collisions, air collisions, or an aircraft going out of control and going into the crowd, being ready for those kind of things, just to coordinate all the effort that goes into preparing for worst case scenario is tremendously expensive and time consuming, because they have to run everything pretty close to realistically.
Yeah.
They'll even get the triage going. They'll have makeup. I mean, they go all out because they want to make sure that the public is safe as it can be, and that everybody that can provide help is primed and ready to go. And then, of course, just the cost involved in bringing aircraft in. You're talking about fuel, unbelievable amounts of fuel that are spent on the aircraft just to get them here for the static displays. Then you're talking about the ones that are actually doing the demonstrations.
So was that the issue? Was it funding?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's the biggest thing. We just can't afford it. And when you come down to it, in a climate where people are hurting, economy is still struggling to get out of the pits here, taxpayers are paying more attention to where their money's going. And as really important to community support and keeping that camaraderie and the great relationship that Laughlin Air Force Base has with the Del Rio community and the Val Verde County community, as important as that is, you just can't get past the fact of how much does it cost to put one of these things on, and is it the right thing to do right now with the economy?
Right.
So, I applaud our senior leadership at Laughlin Air Force Base for making a very tough decision, and I can tell you it was a tough decision. I mean, they cavitated around a number of different options. Can we get away with a one-day show? There were so many things they...
Well, I at least applaud the effort that, it was at least considered. I mean, like I said, I was younger back in the days when I used to go to the air shows, and I do remember it being extremely hot. People would corral under the wings of the planes just to try to keep cool.
Yeah.
Or go into one of the hangars, where they had displays going on. And yeah, it was an all-day event. It was tough. It was hot, and nowadays you have a lot of people that are,
they can't handle the heat.
They can't handle.
So they should stay out of the kitchen. No, I'm just kidding. No, but you're right. That's a concern. You got to. That's an additional issue. All the water that you have to have available. The various first aid
foods
type,
and
of course the thing
event.
with the foods is. Usually those little booths are all run by various volunteer groups and like the Officer Spouses Club or the First Term Airmen's Club. Or, there's various groups that they use those as kind of fundraisers. So that's usually not a cost, but just the electricity that has to to run all that stuff. It's just huge. You can't even begin to guess how much it costs to put on an air show in just little old Del Rio. Can you imagine at some of the bigger venues like Ramstein Air Force Base in Germany, where they do bring in international aircraft and demonstrations there. So it is a great thing. The community loves it, and most of the folks that come through Laughlin Air Force Base look forward to kind of having that feather in their cap. I mean, come on, you put on a production like that, and the community just falls over itself, loving it, and just Laughlin Air Force Base. It's great. You hate to miss on that opportunity, but ultimately, when you're running an Air Force Base, you've got to make decisions that look favorably on the Air Force, and are responsible to taxpayers' money. So they're thinking about you in all aspects. People who pay taxes. So it's not that they're trying to, make Del Rio feel small or not important anymore. It's just you have to make a decision that's smart. Maybe if we get a different administration in where we can reduce some of the other programs that are just gimmies and entitlements. We can put a little bit more money back in the military and maybe do some of those things, but I don't think we'll see much of that.
All right, now
just
going back to
I'm just saying.
All right. And on that note, there are other activities here in Del Rio there's a lot of things aside from this this thing that's growing. There's the rodeos that come around. There's the bike, the rallies, the bike rallies.
Bike rides, yeah.
Up until I believe just last year or the year before, we had the bass tournament going around with the.
You know what? And I used to get the opportunity to sing the national anthem for the daily where they kick everybody off for those things.
And it was sad that I heard that they actually removed us from the from that rotation for the bass tournament because the locals didn't want to spring on some tax. I don't know if it was
as I understand it. I could be wrong. As I understand it, part of it was they didn't want to give the tax break or whatever it is to draw that kind of even though they spent insane amounts of money. We're talking about ESPN coming in here.
Exactly.
You talk about notoriety, but then also, I'm sorry, some of you local ranchers, etc., you people that have owned this town for so long, you don't want to see it grow. You know what? It's time for you to get with the program. Love y'all, respect y'all, but you're making stupid decisions when you in behind the scenes shut down stuff like that. This town's got to grow. It's that simple. It's got to grow. And so bringing in big events like that draws attention to Del Rio, brings money to Del Rio so we can get the standard of living up. So guess what? People don't have to fawn off public money. They can go out and have really good jobs and make money themselves, and everybody benefits. So y'all need to get with the program.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
But there's a number of other events. I'll be honest with you, I'm not a rodeo fan, so but we have our own little fiesta that goes on every year, which is pretty heavily attended. You go down to Brown Plaza, and you got of course Cinco de Mayo.
We got a lot of things going on.
We do. It is a sleepy town, but we wake up for a party.
We do. I've noticed that there's been a lot of activity downtown since I live around that area.
Oh, really? What's going on? Anything?
Well, I mean, here lately, well, not lately, but about a year or so, I've noticed more activities going on like downtown. They'll shut downtown down like for Halloween and we have a plethora of parades. Every time you turn around, there's another parade going on. And so which I like. I like going out and saying, "Oh, what's going on?" Well, I don't know. Let's just stop and let's take a look. Oh, it's this event or it's this thing going on, and I think that's cool. I like that.
Yeah. The one thing that I have has always been an issue for me for downtown Del Rio. It could be revitalized. And by the way, they've done a good job in redoing the streets and the sidewalks there.
I disagree with the corners, though. Those little turns are
my wife made the very same complaint. She's like, "How in the world are you supposed to make a turn here?"
Sandy made a turn and actually clipped one of the corners.
Yeah.
And it actually caught the side of her tire. It popped it.
Popped the tire?
It popped the tire. We had to go buy a new tire. It was an excuse to go buy new tires for the whole car, but the thing is, I wasn't ready for that.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Yeah, the thing that I've said all along, two things about downtown Del Rio. They should, it's just too tight. I think they should, from is it Las Vacas, right by where all the banks are? Mm-hmm. Okay, from there all the way to where it becomes two-way again, because it's one-way street right there. Yeah. That area should just be, change that to cobblestone and make it pedestrian only. The parking lot behind those buildings between those buildings and the old HEB, that needs to be multi-level parking.
That would be great. But the thing is, going back to like you mentioned about the ranchers not wanting the
growth.
The growth. They don't want buildings higher than like 2-story now or 3-story or something like that.
There's enough space down there, given the kind of parking that's currently available along the sides of the street. I think they could do a 2-story
Well,
maybe even a 3-story spread across that whole parking lot area. They'd have plenty of parking.
I was actually reading an article some time back. It was in a newspaper regarding about the actual zoning of the downtown. They don't want buildings higher than 2-story or something like that, because
even though they do have that building that's 4 stories, right on the corner.
Right. Well, because that was actually there since forever.
Yeah.
But they don't want buildings so high because it's going to affect the flight path of the trainers for the planes, and they're afraid that the base is going to pack up and leave, and there's just a lot of things involved.
You know what? It's called communication. You talk to the Air Force and say, "Hey,
we need growth."
Yeah, we need growth. What's the reasonable? Because they will compromise. I mean, they'll work with the community. They understand. The Air Force knows that Laughlin is very successful here, and that the city does need to grow. And so there's a right way and a wrong way to handle that.
I could see it being a problem if I'm going to build like the Freedom Tower here.
Yeah.
But I mean,
or build that 4-story building right outside the gate, which was there was a big political brouhaha several years ago.
But I mean, we're just talking downtown. We're talking about other places. I know that there is some kind of issue regarding the height of buildings, which is I think stupid.
With that 4-story building there should be no issue with just a collective right in that area having something. There shouldn't be. I'd be surprised if it's anything other than the old timers here who own property, who have been running this town for so long. So, I'm 49, almost 50 years old, and I get it. It's like, come on, y'all need to grow up. Put your big boy pants on and help this town grow instead of be a hindrance to it.
So what's the rumor that I hear wandering around about a Chick-fil-A coming to Delray?
I've been hearing the same thing. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they had asked if I knew anything about it. So that rumor is spreading pretty quickly, and I would hate to think that this is going to turn out to be another Walgreens story or another Red Lobster story where we were that close. But I keep hearing that there's potentially a Chick-fil-A coming in.
Well, as far as the Red Lobster issue, it actually, I think Red Lobster actually sent some kind of press release or something saying that they were approached with the idea of opening one here, but unfortunately because of the number of vehicles that pass in front of the area that was zoned for that.
I think we had this conversation too.
Yeah,
I will drive in front of the area.
Yeah, you know what? You throw that strip down across the street, and I trust me, I got a couple of friends, and I will tell them to go back and forth up and down that street several times a day, and I will get you those numbers, guys. Trust me.
Absolutely, absolutely. But So there's definitely potential for Del Rio to grow. We've, I keep hearing also that a Starbucks is coming in.
Well, I don't know if I want Starbucks. I heard that they're using roaches to color their coffee and all that. Did you hear about all that? Oh yeah, no, seriously.
That can't be right.
No, seriously. They use some type of roach or some type of insect that.
It's got a special pigment in it, and you dip it in the coffee, and it makes it that special chocolatey brown.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Supposedly, it's something about the coloring.
Oh no!
So I love Starbucks,
but
La
cucaracha mocha.
Yeah, there you go.
This is no.
So it was big. It was big. It was in the news and everything, and have not.
You sure it wasn't one of those situations where it was really just a poorly kept Starbucks and somebody, took their cup of, they're like, hey, Buffy, I was just, ew, look, and pulling a little leg out, one of those kind of situations, or they really were.
No, they were actually.
Special ingredients is the cockroach.
It was actually a special ingredient. The Starbucks commented on it. Yeah, unfortunately, this one is true. This is not me.
I'm going to have to look that up because I'm just not believing you.
Trust me, look it up. It was just in the news not too long ago.
That's just scary. And I do, here's the thing, though.
There you go.
My wife is in the chat room. She's like, what the, huh? Huh, the what?
No, it's true. I'm serious. Google it. Look it up.
I'll have to look it up because
See, folks, he doesn't believe me. He's actually looking it up right now.
I've got to look that up because I'm not believing you. Okay. All right, here we go. Starbucks. Okay, it didn't show up in the top. I use Bing, by the way, not Google. It's not showing up in the immediate top 10 here.
Bing.
So let's try.
You know, going back to the new Windows 7 phone, my buddy here is really into the Nokia Lumina.
Or Nokia.
Nokia.
I've heard it both ways. I don't know which is correct.
900. I did actually read an article on that because I had to say something about the phone, you know, negatively because I'm an iPhone guy. And it actually got great reviews. The only problem is one of the actual reviewers said that he doesn't like the fact that you go into the search and everything is Bing, or you know, it just
only in the United States and some countries, because evidently the way copyright laws and privacy laws, etc., are written in some countries, they have special agreements where the version that's deployed out to those countries uses some other, like Russia has a different one, China has a different one, and I think Japan has a different one. And there's some other, I think maybe India. Most of the other ones do have Bing, and actually, was it the first generation? It was maybe T-Mobile, or maybe it was Verizon. The devices that were deployed with them, actually the search engine was Google.
Wow.
And people were complaining. It was like, wait a minute. My buddy over in AT&T or in Rogers in Canada has got Bing as the search engine. Why is mine say Google? They were complaining. And of course, you know, people had figured out over in XDA developers, a great website if you want to learn about hacking most of your types of phones.
Yeah, hacking.
Well, you know, or jailbreaking or rooting, jailbreaking for iPhone, rooting for the Android, and what they call it. They had some other phrase for it for Windows Phone, but they figured out a way you could actually go in and flip the default search engine. But the thing about
so you can't change it on your phone right now. It's
not as the integrated piece.
Oh, okay.
You can save it as a favorite. You can pin it as a lifestyle. And as a matter of fact, for those who absolutely insist on having Google, Google did write a really decent app that does the live tile very well, working with it simulates integration with Windows Phone pretty good. There's certain things that unless it actually hooks right into the OS, it's not going to pass automatically, but it does a pretty good job. So for those who like the Windows Phone but like the Google search engine, check out the Google apps. And actually there's some good Google voice apps too for those who use them.
And that's why I like my iPhone, because I can pin whatever search engine I want. Yahoo, Google, Bing, everything.
I can pin all of it I want too, but I like the fact that Bing is integrated, and so I just talk to my phone and it tells me exactly what I need.
Yeah, like el oso los flojo.
Yeah, that was so funny. What's the actual word?
I don't know. You're going to have to ask Sandy on that one. I don't know.
Pesaroso or something like that.
Yeah, pesaroso or something.
I was like, okay. So it doesn't like the slang word. So I guess it's Castilian Spanish that it's translating. Well, here's the story. It says, Starbucks denies cockroaches and rats infest New York outlets.
No.
Starbucks renounces usage of roach extract in food dyes. So that was supposedly the story. They were using a roach extract in their dyes. So they say they're not doing it.
No, they're not doing it now. Because it got out. That's
you
why.
think they got busted? And they just, we're not doing. It's like, are you still beating your wife?
No.
It's like, what?
No.
Wait a minute. So you were beating your wife, so you can't win.
No.
So you can't win, you know. It's like, so have you stopped using cockroach extract in your dyes?
Actually, I didn't hear that it was extract. I heard that it was I didn't even think it was a roach. I heard that it was some kind of insect that were using it for something about its dye. So they're saying that it was roach.
You know, they're saying that, you know, the accusation was that they were using some sort of, what was it, cochineal extract or roach extract, as urban dwellers term it, and that everyone's favorite pusher of designer coffee, Starbucks, has been using the stuff for years in its velvety, sweet, red-dyed pastries. Well, no more. Starbucks. President Cliff Burrows wrote in a Thursday blog that Starbucks is transitioning away from the use of an insect called the cochineal. That sounds like a bird.
You see? They were using it. They admitted it. Thank you.
But evidently
Thank
it's
you.
not in the coffee.
Well,
It was in the
nonetheless,
red dye. It was in the red dye for their pastries. Their velvety red pastries.
Well, last time I heard red dye number 5 was in everything.
Way back then, we're old about. See, Burroughs blogged that Starbucks fell short of your expectations by using natural cochineal extract as a colorant in our 4 food and 2 beverage offerings in the United States. Why not elsewhere?
Well, because everybody uses that stuff anyway. So
It's found freely in every food product.
I kind of figured, there was a reason why I would always have to run to the bathroom after drinking a Starbucks coffee.
Okay, so he says he identified the products in question as the strawberries and cream frappuccino, strawberry banana smoothie, raspberry swirl cake, birthday cake pop, mini donut with pink icing, and red velvet whoopie pie. So,
why would you want to go get a smoothie at a Starbucks?
These.
I go there for coffee, guys.
Exactly. Of course, there are other people who say, that's a little, just get real coffee. And one of my other friends, he lives for the Pico coffee.
Oh, really?
The Pico station. He does.
I used to love the coffee there at the Tejano Mart, the Shell, before they closed them down.
No, they're chewing that up too, both of them.
I know.
They're going bye-bye.
The coffee at that place was good. I used to like it.
Shameless plug here. I do the, no thanks. No thanks. My wife posted in the chat room, I'll have a grande mocha rocha, please. No thanks on the dung beetle special.
There you go.
You see him rolling out the pastry.
Yep, you just see him rolling.
If you've ever seen, look it up on Wikipedia or just Bing or Google. Look up dung beetle. It is hilarious to watch those things work. I've actually watched them out at the lake. They have them out at the lake.
The dung beetles?
Yes. The little poo-poo pusher. But anyway, shameless plug. I like the cappuccinos and coffees and 20 belows at Energize Coffee Shop at the fitness center on base. So if you have not tried that out and you work at Laughlin Air Force Base, try it out. Really good stuff. But you know what? The title of this episode was Christ of the Abyss, and it was all generated based on a conversation we were having watching video of our Florida trip a few years ago. And you asked about that, and I said, well, actually, I have video of that. And it's the Florida Keys are just a fantastic reef to dive on. It's very well protected. It's a preserve, and they're watched very carefully. They've gone to great pains to put a number of safe mooring buoys at the various places where everybody goes diving or snorkeling, because some of those out there are actually shallow enough to do some decent snorkeling on. So they have safely placed a number of mooring buoys out there so boats collect. You'll see some places 5 or 6 boats all moored there, and so it's just like a ton of divers there. But they're watched very carefully by the various dive operations there to protect the area so that the natural life there can continue to thrive, but also that it maintains a great diving experience for folks who go there. And one of the big attractions there for both snorkeling and scuba diving is called Christ of the Abyss. Now, it's this big statue of Christ, that was sunk back in 1962 or 64 and it's one of several that were cast from a mold over in Europe. There's one that's just like it that is sunk. It was first sunk in the Mediterranean in 13 meters of water, I think, back in 1954. And then there are a number. I thought I'd heard somebody while we were there say that the one in the Keys is the only other one that's submerged, but that's turned out not to be true. There are a number of other casts of this original mold found throughout the world, and a great many of them have been submerged, so that seems to be a common theme.
Yeah.
But it's kind of neat to go to dive on something like that. So without any further ado, I have a short video of our visit, one of our visits to the Christ of the Abyss. And it really is neat, and you can tell that it's been down there a while. You know, dropped in 1962 or 64. I read where one of the ones that was sunk, I think it was one in the Mediterranean, where at one point it lost its hands because somebody hooked an anchor onto it and damaged it. And so they brought it back up, I think in the 90s, or maybe it was early 2000s. And then they fixed it. They reattached. They found the hands. They reattached because I think it's made out of brass. They reattached it. And there's my wife in the background there. I'm obviously working the camera. And then they reattached the hands, and then they sunk it back again. I think in 2004 or 2009, something like that. But yes, my wife waving at me. But it's, this is a very popular attraction. It's kind of neat to get your picture taken. We did, of course, do the still camera thing and have a number of pictures taken with it. And one of the trips, I think it was the 2006 trip that we made there. Oh, no, my wife is posting some more stuff. You might think about adjusting your cameras up just a bit. Up just a bit. Or down just a bit. Maybe the camera is high. Maybe that's what you mean. Yeah, or I do mean down. Anyway,
it's because we like
nice
to
to
slouch.
See more of you. Yeah, we're just not sitting up.
We're slouching today.
But you're right. You're right. We probably could re-aim the cameras. Instead of a lot of the wall behind you. But I have a great wall.
Yeah.
My wife knows. We went through great pains to pick out the picture that we have there. Could have gone a number of different ways, but we went to local store, Kirkland's, and I saw that there. I had a couple of different options that were kind of...
I like it.
Yeah. They were kind of movie themed. The other one was more colorful, but actually I like the contrast that shows up on the screen. So
yeah, you got a certification on that wall that I'm trying to obtain.
You're working on it. Well, you have the one.
I got those two. I got
those
two, but I need that one.
Working on that one. Yeah, we're making progress.
I'll get there.
If we can get you out on a dive,
yeah,
dude,
I know.
I'm so disappointed that you weren't able to dive with us today.
Yes, trust me. I know every time when I get a text from you and it's just, oh gosh,
I just go wah wah wah. I'm like biting my fingertips. Like, should I do I text him back or? Oh, never blow me off, boyfriend.
But it's
I will be so upset with you. Like, what?
But then again, my phone is like an appendage. It's actually attached to my hand, so I always have it with me.
And yet you don't use the calendar feature. What's up
I
with
do,
that?
I do.
Okay, so I get this phone call at 6:45. I get this phone call 6:45. Hey, what time's the podcast? I said 8 o'clock. Oh, I was getting ready to tell you that I'm out the door. I'm like,
it was 6 o'clock.
Yeah,
it was 6:45.
Yeah, it was 6:45.
Yeah,
you were thinking it was 7. I'm like, dude, it should be in your smartphone, your iPhone. It should be in there, dude, like saying the podcast at 8 o'clock on Saturday.
Well,
but it wasn't there.
Well, I have an iPhone. According to the new Windows 7 commercial, I've been a beta tester.
That's right.
I love because I don't have a Lumia.
I love those commercials because I like the guy they got from Saturday Night Live that does those commercials. He's just funny. The beta test is over. Have you seen Have you gone to the website?
Incisors.
Outrageous incisors. Carry. Wow, Vlad Impaler. Have you gone to the website to see the rest? Because they have all those commercials that the guy from Saturday Night Live does. Drummond? No. What's his name? I can't remember his name. But if you watch, they've got like this video just kind of repeating.
On the website?
Yeah, on the website.
No.
And he's just sitting there. He's like twirling in his seat. You just like, it's almost like you're watching him live. He's like bored. He spins in his seat, kind of looking around.
No, because that would actually show, intrigue in something Microsoft. I'm just totally against Microsoft, so no, I haven't seen.
I know you are not totally against Microsoft.
No, I'm not.
You just like the Apple stuff better.
I just, they have awesome products. I think both companies
yes
do the best at what they're specific at.
Yes.
I know Apple is good at their multimedia and music.
They've pretty much owned that realm.
Yeah,
if you go to a lot of newspapers, when I was working for Computerland, we had a number of newspapers, in the area that we did service for, and more often than not, I would go in there if they weren't using some ancient mini mainframe system. They were typically using some sort of Macintosh to do their.
I know that a lot of musicians now use Apple for the digitizing of their music. There's just a lot of things that they use them for. Microsoft is of course, it's the number one selling PC out there. Everybody and their mother has one. So there's software for everything that you can possibly think of, and there's integration with various peripherals and things like that.
And usually it's about the software. That's really what it usually comes down to. Can I do what I need to do or want to do with software that's available from that platform?
So the one thing about that, of course, with Microsoft, since it's out there, you can go anywhere and buy a software, and you don't have to worry about it because it's going to be made for PC. Now, if you have a Mac, you actually have to read through the packaging and see if it's compatible with, if it's compatible for Mac, or even if it's available for that particular machine.
Right.
Because unfortunately, there's not very much software out there. There is. It's starting to get popularity because of the iPhones and the iPads.
Yeah.
So they're going up, but software has to be specially programmed for, of course, to work on that platform. But I believe I remember there wasn't very much software available for Mac back in the day. Now it's like they're starting to catch up, and now everything is getting.
Well, who is pushing the most software out there, for Apple?
Is
Microsoft.
Yeah, Microsoft.
Because they are a software company.
Right.
Oh, by the way, my wife posted in the chat room. The ad guy is Chris Parnell.
Chris Parnell.
Yeah, so funny, so funny. Thank you, Tara. You back me up so good.
Yep.
So, yeah, exactly. Both platforms can get you, if whatever satisfies the need that you have. I think that the popularity of the iPad, of course, pushing now, everybody's eyes open to tablets in general. It's why the Kindle Fire really, it was on fire. It sold extremely well.
Yeah, and it was inexpensive too.
That's going to be the key. I think that's really what you're going to see. The next battle is going to be.
They advertised it perfect. They're like, well, I can get two Kindle Fires for the price of that one iPad, or actually, something like that. I remember I can get the 2 for 1 or something like that.
Yeah. No, obviously it's not being an Android-based device and not having as much flexibility as your typical Android tablet. It's certainly not going to be as powerful as an iPad or even a full-blown Android tablet. But it has a very specific target audience with a specific price point, and it's attractive, and it gets people in the realm. It gets them into tablets. And then, here we're seeing, it looks like somewhere between June and October, we're going to see the Windows tablet start coming out.
Yeah, we got to keep a close eye on that one.
That's going to be interesting because they've got basically the Metro interface that you see on the Windows Phone is being pushed heavily on the tablets. I like it on the desktop. I'm anxious to see it on the tablet. But then you're going to have two different versions of that. You're going to have the full-blown Intel processor-based tablet, so it'll be as powerful as your PC almost, and have the same capability. Then you're also going to have the ARM-based one, which is going to be more like your specialty consumption user. More that will be, I think, will be focused more on as a counterpart to the iPad, because that target audience.
You see, why make two versions of it? See, that's kind of where the whole Android thing. You got the, what is it, the kernel, and then you got the popcorn, and you got so many versions of it out there.
They just name the versions. Apple doesn't name their versions other than it's 5.0 or 5.1 or whatever. And then Windows, of course, they do the naming, sort of.
Why not just make one and just push it out, and that's, we've had this discussion in the past.
Yeah.
There's so many different versions because it's open source software.
Yeah, creates fragmentation.
Yeah, and it creates problems, and that's one thing that Apple has actually done away with. It's like, no, we're going to push out this particular thing, and everybody's going to get it, and that's it. It poses its problems. I'm not going to deny that. It does.
Well, it comes down to, and I've gotten into this debate a number of times with folks in various forums. You have the mindset of, I want consistency throughout, and I'm okay with no variation. And so with the iPhone, the iPad, what you have is every iPhone, other than moving your icons around and what you have installed, the operating system is consistent from device to device. You've got the same iPhone that the person next to you has. Android, other end of that scale, you could have any number of versions of their operating system, because you could have any number of pieces of hardware. From the uber cheap, we put this thing together, it's made out of 100% plastic parts, and it's got plastic parts, and it will fall apart if you sneeze on it. And it got out the door for $1,297. Or you've got all the way to the high end, where it's got the high resolution screen, and it's got 64 gigabytes of memory in it, plus a micro SD card, plus it's got it's called quad band phone, and got every possible feature capable for it. So it's a true hero phone. So you've got all the different versions in between there, and so you have different versions of the OS that are written to, the biggest thing that I understand as a differentiator is the screen. Because then you have this Android phone, which is at a real low resolution, a QVGA, and then you've got this one that's the HD version, and the same app cannot work well on this version as opposed to the other version. So they have to rewrite the software, rewrite the OS to work well with that. Whereas the iPhone is consistent. You get that Retina display across all the iPhone 4 and 4S's.
Yeah.
Now Microsoft said, okay, we want somewhere in the middle there. We want to maintain a consistent experience like iPhone does or like Apple does, but we want some degree of differentiation in the hardware. So that's why they've got Samsung and HTC and LG and Fujitsu and now Nokia. But really, Nokia has been the one that's been pushing and has had the permission to push the ranges of hardware. So you're probably going to see more variation and potentially fragmentation in the Windows Phone closer to the Android than you will with
other
iPhone.
Yeah, other.
Yeah. So which is your mindset? Do you want complete variation or do you want consistency? That's really what it comes down to.
And ultimately, it comes down to price too. I mean, if you're gonna go, speaking about Android, getting out the subject a little bit here, had a student come up to me at the school, and he was telling me something about something he had read on the internet on his phone,
which we all know is gospel,
right? It's gospel. Well, the thing was, when he pulled his phone out, pulled out this little square-looking thing about yay big. It was the Samsung Note. I've never seen one up close. That thing is massive.
It wants to be a tablet without being a tablet.
You know, that thing was like enormous. It was ginormous. You know, it was like.
I'm like, what's the point? You might as well have just go to a tablet. Which personally, preference 10-inch tablet is pretty much the spot on size. I have to think. Anybody who makes the little smaller ones or bigger ones, I think that's stupid.
You know, it was screen looked great.
Yeah, it was probably
it
HD.
was great.
Yeah.
I mean, it was an awesome display and everything else.
Right.
It was just the size is just, you know, unrealistic to me as a phone.
Right.
You know, he was like having an iPad in your hand, you know, and then putting it up to your face and start talking. It just, it was crazy. I did like it because, like I said, you know, the screen was big and everything else made the icons look a little bit bigger. You know, the words were easier to read and stuff. But
right.
To me, it just seems like, why would you want to build a device like that? It just was
just an odd size. It's like the...
And he pulls out the little pin and he starts, you know, highlighting and doing little things. I'm like, you know, okay.
We're going back to the stylus days.
Yeah, you know, I thought we got away from that.
Yeah.
I thought your finger was supposed to be the stylus.
Yeah, exactly. Although you can get a precision with some of those stylus that just... You can't with your fingers. Just a big old line on the screen.
Yeah, especially like my finger. It's a big nub, you know, big fat nub, you know.
Nice. Well, we've been talking a lot of tech stuff.
Yeah,
and not so much about the scuba stuff.
The scuba stuff.
This was your week for a commercial, if I remember correctly.
Oh, the infamous commercial.
Yeah. And what did you choose for?
You know, one of the things that, as a diver, that we kind of run into a lot, or one of the things that bugs me is, you know, the environment, making sure that you don't hurt anything. You caught us talking about the Cries of the Abyss that apparently somebody attached a knife to it and the hands got tore off and things like that. That can easily happen if you're diving and you don't have your gear in a good location, especially, you know, you can run into problems, you know, because you may have your gear dangling down and whatnot.
Not a good thing.
Not a good thing. So you always want to keep your gear streamlined, which we've discussed, I think, in the past too. You know, keep it close to yourself so that you know exactly where it is. You know, regulator, alternate air sources, and consoles, computers, and whatnot, flashlights.
So how do we solve that?
You solve that by actually using a product that I love and I use exclusively. It is a gear keeper, a retractable lanyard, and it works great. It actually comes in several little different sizes and things like that, and so the gear keeper is actually a product of Hammerhead Industries, which is their headquarters located in Ventura, California. The original concept behind the gear keeper was for a scuba diving tool. It was for flashlights and consoles, and has developed into a wide range of retracting products for events like fly fishing, outdoors and hunting, fire and rescue, industrial and and even law enforcement and military uses. In the scuba diving market, you'll see GearKeeper products privately labeled, you know, for companies such as Aqualung, Genesis Acona, XS Scuba, Dive Right, Poseidon, and even Apollo, just to name a few. The reason I like it is because cleaning the retractor is actually quite easy. The retractor is designed with a patented flushing system that allows for easy cleaning as well as flushing sand and debris from the internal mechanism. All you got to do is just submerge it in water and extend and retract for 5 to 10 cycles, and that'll do it. It takes everything away and cleans the internal mechanisms.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So
amazing.
For a full line of GearKeeper products, visit our website at gearkeeper.com or walk into your local dive shop and ask for GearKeeper Retractor.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
So
I know you were making fun of me last time.
Well, you know, it was like, come on, dude, we got to come up with this.
All right, did I step it up this time?
No, you did good.
Oh,
you did really good.
Thank
I'm
you.
impressed. I'm impressed.
You know, I'm still trying to get the whole broadcaster voice down, you know.
And you will, just you got to play with it.
Yeah.
You know what? You can always come over here on our off nights and just kind of practice. Because it's different when you hear it in the headphones, because how you hear it in headphones is how people are going to hear it out there.
Right.
So you could get your. It's all about modulation. How you approach it, working the microphone, and back in the day they used to what they call throwing up on the mics. Oh, welcome to our fantastic show. This is my partner, Scuba Bob. And that's how such famous personalities as Harry Carey. Just I have my guest for tonight is Vlad the Impaler. So Vlad, why you're so pale?
I'm still looking for that episode.
If I could ever find that, I will save that. That was one of the classics. Vlad the Impaler, look at those outrageous incisors. He was just hilarious. Man.
Well, and going back to keeping your gear streamlined, you always want to make sure that you are streamlined to try to avoid contact with coral and
right.
Of course, in natural environment. You don't want to damage anything. You have, awesome decor to look at.
Right.
It's there, for your enjoyment. This statue was, sunk back in the 50s, and
yep.
that's pretty neat because it wasn't even made here, and it's here in the United States coast,
Exactly.
And I think that's awesome. I think that's just way cool to be able to see things that come from other countries. It's here.
Yeah.
It's exclusive. I mean, there's only a few of them around.
Like submarines and aircraft.
Yeah,
we have U-boats. Those are from another country.
Well, it would be cool to see a U-boat sunk over here. You can find it, but maybe you could.
Supposedly there's one off the Texas coast.
What?
Oh, yeah, there's supposedly a U-boat off the Texas coast. I think around not before you get to like the Houston Galveston area. If I remember one of the Discovery Channel episodes, I guess there was something over in a German U-boat that was parked over in it was cruising around Mexico in the Caribbean and got exposed, and they ran into some issues and couldn't submerge, and so they were a sitting duck basically. I'll have to look that up sometime, see if I can.
Wow, I did not know that.
It's probably in way too deep water for recreational divers to go on, but
we're just even notice. I mean, even if we can acknowledge that it's even there, I think that would be awesome.
Kind of cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
We'll just get some pictures and put them up there.
Cool.
Well, we're running over time, but that's okay because it's our show. Love it. But for those who were watching, participating, I definitely appreciate my wife chiming in and assisting us with some information, background. She makes a great. She could almost be the producer for the show.
I think we should make her a producer. Yeah, I think so.
And of course, appreciate your wife Sandy for chiming in here and there and adding a little levity to the show. Yeah. And as always, you can catch our podcast rebroadcast or made available for your download on YouTube and later on Vimeo whenever we can get through their soup Nazi like approach to video uploading. I mean, come on. But so anyway. I'm teaching a scuba class next weekend, so 8 o'clock may be a tough gig to hit next week. We may have to try and make it a little later.
So next week there's a class?
Yep.
Okay, I'll make sure I'll pencil that in because I'm going to be there.
Good. So
how many students?
I just have the one, but then there will also be a refresher and a Discover Scuba potentially there as well.
Sounds
so it'll be
good.
awesome. Oh,
sounds
there goes
good.
the phone, the infamous Bond phone.
James Bond.
Okay, so that completes another episode of Two Guys Who Dive. So we'll post on the Facebook page as well for DelRioDiveClub.com information on the next podcast. It'll probably be later on Saturday, but we'll play it by ear. So we're looking forward to the next episode, and we're looking for guests. We have shiny extra microphone here. So those who are divers or non-divers just interested in participating in the podcast, we'd love to have you on.
Yeah, if you want to come out on the internet, just please come aboard.
Yeah,
Just
be
come on
famous
over.
or
Yeah, come on.
infamous. That's right. So we'll look forward to next episode of...
I think you got one final thing. They
I
want to know
do?
what the pay is
What's
for the
the
producer.
Nice.
Well, you have to talk that out with your hubby because
That's right.
That's beyond the scope of my my capabilities here.
That's right. That's not... Yeah, you're not the finance department of the deal.
But
Actually, I'm not the finance department of this deal. So, all right. So that finishes up for this week, and we look forward to another episode of Two Guys Who Dive.